Show, Rory, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Not
I'm
at all.
excited.
Yeah,
Nervous, but excited.
we just said that, but it's all fine. Let's turn nerves into excitement. We go back to the start. We go back to the very beginning of every guest's journey. So where did your journey to here begin?
Well, I guess I kind of had like a bit of a weird intro into, I'd say, the performing world, because I never really dreamed of being an actor or like a performer. I think, well, my earliest memory of what I wanted to be was to be a knight, because I watched The Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger in it. I remember saying to my
What
mum
a
and dad, I was
film.
like, how do I go about that? Like, how do I become a knight? And I remember them being like, it's not exactly something that's quite like, you can't pick it up at the job centre. Do you mean like it's not? So anyway, I kind of, at school, my main thing was that I just love sports, and so always was playing rugby or football or running. And then as I kind of got through school and we got to like the stage where it's like A levels, you had to decide what was going on. I remember like going in, you had to have your meeting with like your head of year. And they're like, so Rory, like, you didn't do very well. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty standard. Like, school just wasn't my thing. And they were like, so for A levels, you're really restricted to what you're allowed to pick. And they're like, you can do drama. And I was like, all right, I guess so. Let's do drama then. And basically, the drama class wasn't in our school. It was in the school next door, because we didn't have a drama department, so we had to go across to it. And anyway, a friend of mine at the time, she was, we'd actually been at primary school together, and she'd gone on to be in EastEnders. Remember, like, we went out for a drink, and she was like, oh, you should try for like my drama school. You might like it. And I was like, all right. Got like, there's nothing else. Like, I'd been applying to universities for like, to be a physiotherapist or to work in sports.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I knew that nothing would ever happen, like actual like levels of sport.
Yeah.
And so when I then kind of was like, oh, auditioned at school, it just all kind of like snowballed from there, really.
Was there anything about drama that, I don't mean like you enjoyed, obviously you were doing it, but was there something even subconscious that you think was like you were attached to?
Do you know what? I think I'd always grown up in, my mum and dad always took me to musicals growing up, like always. And I think that I always loved the idea of like making people happy, or like, do you get me in that atmosphere of kind of being creative and stuff? And so what I loved about suddenly doing these drama classes is it all just felt kind of like as if this is like a topic we're getting to study. Like it's so much fun. And like, I think because I hadn't spent years before it, it was all kind of, everything was so new to me.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like a little puppy, just being like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. It's nice hearing that you kind of like fell into it. And I think I've mentioned it before, but people saying that my mother-in-law actually very much during lockdown was talking about it, because my brother-in-law kind of found teaching, but he never really, he did like, I don't, if he's listening, I don't actually know what his degree was, but at one point he was like an intern. Yeah, it was an unpaid internship at QPR.
Oh my God.
Doing like analysis for their academy teams, like the younger ones. So he always loved development and like working with young people and like helping them do what they need to do to have a career and stuff. And then all of a sudden, pandemic hit, COVID hit. He needed a job because he'd graduated. I think he graduated during, he must have graduated either just before or during COVID. I can't actually remember what the timeline. And he got he was a tutor or a tutor at his old high school, one of the two, doing maths. And then this opportunity came about that he could become a fully qualified teacher, but on the job.
Whilst he was there?
Yeah, so like he basically did his year, I think it was a year or so. Again, I'm actually probably butchering this like tale. So if he does listen.
He's like, it did not happen.
Yeah, it's not. Actually what happened was I had to apply for this. No.
Yeah.
But in my head, he basically was doing this like tutoring and then finished that contract, so it was a fixed term contract.
Yeah.
A job within the maths department as a teacher became available. It was like a teacher training position where he'd be given like say 1 or 2 classes in the first year, then it build up and build up and up. But he had to do his coursework on the side of that.
Right.
And he was being paid to do that as a teacher. So he got this teaching, it was obviously lower than the early training career thing. Found this career. Now he's like absolutely killing it as a maths teacher, fully qualified.
It's
still
mad to go from like such a, well, I guess they're very similar in terms of he was within kind of,
he's within
aspect.
the academy setup, so
Yeah.
he's working with younger people. But to go to a point, she said that it's funny because I think your career always finds you rather than, there are people obviously who seek out something, but
yeah,
even I think about my dad, he worked as a line manager and stuff and then was made redundant and then now he's retired, but in that gap he found a job that he actually really enjoyed. Like he was a consultant, he was going around startup businesses, helping them grow. How can you go from making X to Y a month? Like how can you level up? And that was his kind of like the last 15, 20 years of his working career.
Yeah.
It was, from what I can remember, that the happiest he was, because it was like he was helping people, right? That's what he wanted. He loves doing that. So it is that testament of what you've done, is you kind of found your career.
Yeah, it's do you know, it was such a weird one, because I think that like at the time, I remember it being weird because when you're 18, like you feel like you should already like know what was kind of going on, and being like, you know, like everybody in your year would be like, oh, I'm going off to like be a doctor, or I'm going off to, I don't know, do something crazy.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, I'm gonna see what happens. Like I'm like that guy. And then I think for me, I was always like, oh, sports is kind of the thing. And then once the kind of opportunity to go into drama opened up, I think it was just so funny, like telling my family about it, because so I went to this kind of open day at the school. I took my mum along, and I was like, Mum, I think I'm gonna go on an audition for this drama school. And they're like, my mum and dad are the most supportive people ever. And she was like, all right, like, I'll come with you, whatever. And we sat at the front row of this class, and like they started a ballet class, and I was like, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew. Like this is.
I was going to say that about the dance element.
I cannot do that. And then went through, and they started singing, and I was like, again, other than kind of like playing like one of the angels in the year 6 play, like I haven't really like belted out the pipes in a long time, kind of thing. And then it kind of went on and on. And then I remember meeting the owners, because it was like a little small school in Bromley. And they were like, we really think that you should come along. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, I'm going to think about it. I remember going home, and Mum was like, what do you think? And I was like, I'd love to, but I just don't think I can do it, because it just seemed kind of so distant and so far from kind of what I'd done before. And then anyway, I kind of thought on it a bit and kind of beat around the bush a little bit. And then my mum was like, you should just go for it. So I was like, I'm going to audition. And the school really kindly were like, we can set you up with teachers beforehand to prep you for this audition. So I had somebody teach me a dance routine, because you had to do a dance routine, obviously like sing a song and then do like a scene. But I'd obviously not done any of them. So they were like, we'll teach you and prep you for it. And my God, I wished that there'd been a camera in those rooms, because it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. The dance, I remember it starting with press ups. How that is relevant to anything. But yeah, and so they kind of taught me a song and taught me whatever. But I kind of remember going to the audition day, and like everyone was there in their kind of like leotards and stuff, because you had to do a ballet class first. Yeah. I'm there in like a Hollister tracksuit or something, like just completely stood out like a sore thumb. And then I remember it came to like the dance call, and they were like, right, do you want to do your dance? They kind of put on the music, and they told me, for some reason they told me like to dance barefoot. I can't remember why, but anyway, I started doing the dance, and where I was like trying really hard, I'd obviously been like scraping my feet on the floor or something. They started to bleed, and it got about, honestly, I'd say 20 seconds into the dance, they're like, that's all right, just leave it there. We kind of get the gist of it. And obviously it was probably just me just like being a prat, just like rolling around the floor, like trying to do different things. And then yeah, did the song, did the kind of scene and stuff, and then yeah, they kind of somehow they let me in. But it was and I'd say that first year of going into college was a real eye opener, really difficult, because obviously I kind of felt that I was complete like fish out of water. But luckily enough, the school that I was at was so small that they could like really like spend time on us.
So was that post A levels? Yeah,
post A levels.
Yeah,
so I went there so it would have been just after 18 or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so that was kind of like how I got into it.
Actually, mad.
Yeah,
but like George and I spoke about, mutual friend George. It's nice to hear of someone being given a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I when I look back on it, probably shouldn't have been. Like, if I was in that room, I'd be going, that guy, just leave him. Just give him a nice little kind of like handshake on the way out. But no, and I'm so grateful for it, because I mean, as I say, the people that run the school I went to, I mean, even now I'm really close to them, and they are the reason why I'm still able to still like perform and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it seems mental now when I think back to it, because it just seems like so long ago. And like, yeah.
When was that then? So
many years ago. No, well, it feels so I'm 31 now. So I graduated 2014.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
That was 2016, and every so often I think back and go, It wasn't that long ago. And then one of my colleagues at work, I had to teach her how to transfer a playlist from Dropbox to iTunes to iPad.
Right. Okay.
And she literally turned to me, Libby, this is a shout out for you because it made me feel really old. She went, so is this how you used to get music onto like your MP3 players?
Like,
I was like, yeah, it is. But yeah, 2016 was a long time ago. No offense, 2014 was
even longer.
Yeah. But that's mad. So like from there, is that did they have like a showcase and stuff? Is that when you kind of went into the industry?
Yeah. So then kind of obviously each year we kind of stayed in. And in my year, I think we had like 14 people, so it was like really small. And then did the usual thing of like showcase whatever, and then was lucky enough to get a job during my third year.
Great.
So, and that again was just kind of like was kind of bonkers to me. And I didn't really understand the full like aspect of it because I was like, oh, amazing! Like, and now I get to do this outside of the school kind of thing. So, it was amazing. Then went on tour from there, kind of thing.
Madness.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Heathers very quickly?
Yes. Yeah.
How was that journey?
Yeah, Heathers was bizarre. I mean, it all came back like during lockdown, and George will love me saying this. Our mutual friend George.
Yeah.
I like famously have like, well, not famously, but between my group of friends, have like retired like 3 times.
All right.
I always am like, that's it now.
Yeah.
Like I'm putting down the shoes or whatever I'm putting down and putting it down. And then like during lockdown, I was like, I think it's time. And then Heathers came about, auditioned for it, got it. And I called George up and I was like, I got Heathers, and he's like, so you come back then, are you? Come back. Yeah. All right. Okay. But yeah, no, Heathers was bizarre. Obviously, we were one of the first tours out of lockdown, and yeah, I'll be completely honest, I'd never seen the show. I didn't know much about it, and it was just it was brilliant. Obviously, met my fiance on it, and met like tons of the people in there are like now friends for life. But it was and then obviously we got to do it as like the live capture and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's mad. Like the journey that show's taken, because it's got, I think you agree, it's got such a cult following to it.
Oh God, yeah.
That so I won't lie, I haven't seen the show.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before.
But it's that thing of going, I just know about it because of the following it's got.
Yeah. On
social media, the fans. It's almost unparalleled with like Six fandom and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't like get any of the huge things around it, like people like Maddie and the Veronicas and people like that would really get like the huge kind of amount of kind of fan stuff. But it was just bizarre. And like when we were in it, I mean, it was such a fun show because I was doing it with my friend Liam, who's like playing opposite me, and
Liam Doyle.
Yeah, and we are
man.
like we just got to be dickheads. Like, and it was a joy for us because we are like, as in like, because we were just two mates just hanging out on stage and getting a chance to do it quite a few times together. And then when the live capture came around, I mean, when I got the text and like Liam did as well, we were like, oh yeah, that'll be ace. Like, get to do it again. So it's it was bizarre. It was such a whirlwind of an experience. And I think I've got like so many mates from shows over the years, but that's the one that kind of like we really got like a load of people that even when I see people from the show now, we're all still really close.
Quite a unit type
yeah,
thing, I think that it was interesting when they filmed it, and like I suppose what I want to ask here is, how did they film it like a live, or was it quite chunky? What was it?
It was quite chunky. It took like 4 days, and I remember again when it came through, I was thinking like, oh right, it's just going to be like a static camera at the back, and we're just all gonna do a musical kind of thing. And it wasn't. There was like cranes, like things like just
proper like NT.
Yeah. And did not expect that. And so it was kind of one of those things that you just wait and then you go on. And I guess because I'd never really been on kind of like a film set or anything before, that I was like, oh, we only get a chance to do this like once or twice, and I don't know what that looked like. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it was such a bizarre thing, and I just remember all of us at the time being like, "This is so weird." Yeah. And I didn't think when they said that we were doing it, I thought it'd go off on some Blu-ray in some like distant cupboard somewhere. But then when they were like, "Oh, right now it's on Amazon Prime stuff," I was like, "Oh, wow, like I can watch it." And like it came out in the cinema, and it was so funny. I was like, "This is it. I've made it. I'm in the cinema. Like, got my mum, took my nan.
Yeah.
Like, all went down to like Bromley Cinema, and I was like, 6 tickets to Heathers, please. Thank you very much. Like, just so funny.
Yeah.
Like, went in there, there's like 5 other people in the theatre.
You're like waving around, like, how you doing? You're right.
Yeah.
I think it's really great they filmed it, and I think with the like the NT Live and all these things, I think it's really important that we start filming more musicals and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially like musical films have their place. I'm not saying that, but do you know what I mean? But from the stage perspective, because it is different, and it is. I mean, I don't know how much money goes into these productions on filming for stage and stuff, but when it's in there, when it's there, it's more accessible to people who can't come to London.
Yeah.
And tours are great, but like, you know what I mean?
I think also as well, it allows some people to see it that potentially wouldn't turn to see a musical. Like, as in, you know, my closest kind of like group of mates that I've had since I was like a kid, obviously have kind of followed me because I went into musical theatre, but none of them would be like, oh, do you know what? On Friday, let's get some tickets to a show. Yeah. Do you mean? But it's silly things like when that film came out, like they're all like, oh my God, like, I want to come to cinema and watch it.
It's almost like people understand film more.
Yeah.
Do you mean it's more accessible?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're going, let's go to the cinema because I know the cinema. Whereas I think the theatre can be this daunting place of like, I mean, it is. I don't think we can take any shame in saying it, but it is very like, it's very traditionally white middle class. It's very, there's still a stigma to it. There's still these, and it is changing, and I think it's changing for the better. But it is, I still laugh so much. Like, Emma's Nana, but she was hilarious, but she would always get, we must sit in the stalls. Like, all this stuff. Whereas, like, my gran, who grew up in the Pavilion Pantomime in Glasgow, would be like, right, we're going to the gods, up we go. And like, she turned like 70 and was like, can't I go to the pantomime anymore? And we're like, why not? Can't I get in the gods? And like, you could sit elsewhere and all that, and vice versa, both sides.
Yeah.
But when you say the cinema, everyone's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, everyone can kind of relate to it.
Or TV, it's accessible at home.
Yeah.
And I think Heather's doing that. I think there'll be more productions start doing it.
I 100% think it will, and I think, as I say, it will get more people kind of interested in seeing it and interested in watching. Like, during lockdown, I kind of worked my way through every single one of those kind of live productions that was on.
Because like, Hamilton's done it as well, haven't they?
Hamilton, Frozen.
Frozen's coming out.
Yeah, Frozen's coming out.
Yeah. There you are. So it's like, if anything, for a producer, it's a moneymaker. I don't mean that in a bad way, but more people can see it. Like, it's a business at the end of the day. Yeah.
Whirlwind.
Yeah. Madness. Stage strong.
Yes.
We were kind of chatting briefly about it before we started recording.
Yeah.
I think let's introduce it. Your mission statement is to help actors, creatives, and industry professionals through fitness.
Yeah, build confidence.
To build confidence through fitness.
Yeah.
I've obviously written that, and my dyslexic brain has missed out build confidence, the key part of that.
Fitness.
It's not really what I meant to write, but okay. To build confidence through fitness. Yeah. Let's talk about where the idea came from, and it's quite.
Well, I'd kind of, so basically, fitness has always been kind of like my thing. I love it, and I remember even when I was kind of at college, how I'd make money is I would train people, whether it be people that I was in A levels with or people at college. I'd be like, right, for £10, I'm going to do this like training plan and we'll like work out all this kind of stuff. And I loved it. I got a real buzz from that kind of thing. And then I did kind of some of the work in kind of fitness studios and other places like that. And then I briefly went on as like an online coach it was during lockdown. And I was called like the fit coach with a P, right? Cringe. By the time I was like, oh God, that absolutely slaps.
Fit with a capital P.
Fit with a capital P, yeah. And, you know, and again, I loved it and I was kind of like learning to understand it. And then I kind of was always teetering about, always kind of helping people if I was in shows and stuff. I'd be like, oh, if I was working out, they'd come or whatever. And then basically over the past kind of 3 years, I've literally tried a bit of everything. I've like dipped my toe in little areas of the industry. And what it all came back to is I just always loved being involved in kind of like fitness and ultimately kind of working with other people because I get a real buzz off it, like that energy that comes from it. And so, early this year I was on tour and I text Maddie and I was like, I think I'm gonna set up like a business. And she was like, all right, like go for it if you want. And I was like, yeah, okay, I will. And it was one of those things that I was like just always thinking about in the back of my head. And then basically when I was throughout the year, I had a High Rocks, okay, in May. I'd never done one before and I signed up really late. And the day before I went to the gym and I felt this like little twinge go on my shoulder. And I've always had a tour at a show years ago, but suddenly it kind of twinged and I was like, oh, that felt weird. So I went to see a physio and they're like, oh, you've like torn it again. Like your shoulder's like gone. And I was like, oh shit, like what am I going to do? I was like, I wanted to start this business. And so I was like, okay, when can I have surgery? And they're like, okay, you can have it in 3 days. I was like, okay,
Great.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to book a content day, as in like to try and get photos of Stay Strong. Like, and I was like,
So the name and everything was already like,
no name, nothing. Because I knew that I'd wanted it and I'd kind of always kind of been sitting there being like, I just need something to force me to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because I was always sitting there like on tender hooks. And then basically I was like, right, I'm going to go and get these t-shirt and jumper made. I'm going to ask like a friend to come and like take some photos and videos so I can start making an Instagram page. And then did all of that the 2 days before the surgery. So just took a load of painkillers the morning of it and was like, let's just get these photos done. So behind those eyes is like just pain. Yeah. And then I was like, because the thing is, I was like, I can't really start anything if I've got nothing to show anyone. And then I was like, right, had the surgery the next morning. I was like, I'm going to do it from today. So I started I've reached out to a lot of people that I'd kind of worked with before. And to be fair, I'd laid a lot of the foundations years before. And then kind of got the app made and then just kind of tested myself and just said to myself, right, I'm going to live off whatever I've saved from the start of this year. And I'm just going to work full time on this because if it's my passion, I've got to do something about it. And yeah, and then it's just kind of like snowballed from there.
Snowball from there. With the with the name and stuff.
Yeah.
So you've obviously done these content days, done all that. When did the kind of like idea for Stage Strong?
So I always knew that my big thing is that I always wanted to work with performers. I think it's just because no matter what, I always want to work within the industry. And, you know, I've tried my hand within producing, agenting, all of it. And I always was like, oh, there's something about it, like just get that buzz. And for me, the reason why I want to be about performers is because, like, I know it sounds sometimes cringe, whatever, and I always bang on about it, but like performers are athletes. Like, you literally use your body to work. Yeah. Like, there's not many other fields in the world that you literally have to sing, dance, and act to make your living, right? And it can have a huge toll on your body, but like even at college and stuff, it's kind of brushed over. It's like as long as you can hold a plank for 3 minutes, like you're all good. Like you're gonna fly, and as long as you can kick your leg high. But there's nothing prepping you for like 8 shows a week. Or the big thing for me is that my confidence as a performer would sometimes be like skyrocket high or sometimes be like really low. And I always found that when I felt really good and positive in myself, not even about kind of a thing of like looking good, but like when that adrenaline rush you get from like achieving something, I then was like, right, when I was going to auditions and I was having that behind me, I was like, oh yeah, I feel really good. And then I wasn't conscious about myself. I was more like just enjoying the kind of moment of like performing or singing and stuff. So I kind of wanted to share that. And so many of my friends would be like, oh, they always kind of felt like they wanted to have a little bit of help and stuff. So years ago, I'd be like, right, let me just train a load of my friends and just get them involved and see how that goes. And I think that's where the buzz of it came, of really getting to spend time with other performers that are all in the same boat. They're trying to kind of build their confidence, feel as best as they possibly can, and inspire that kind of like healthy way of life.
Yeah. And I suppose you've kind of hit on there about that I'm going to ask about it because it is a main business, but it's a side hustle, right? In a sense of it's to support a performing world. It's to support that thing, and I know a lot of people that listen to this are in that industry and perform it.
Yeah.
So I've spoke about it. The reason I took the job I'm in now isn't a change of career. It's a support mechanism.
Yeah.
With that in mind, when did it become? I'm trying to word this question.
When did it become like the full time?
Well, yeah. When did you go? Oh, you kind of hit on it saying I'll just launch straight in. Are you still in that mindset of this is like?
Do you know what it is? I kind of initially I was like, oh, it can be kind of a little side hustle or my little side thing.
Yeah.
And then once I started working with kind of like a few more performers and started like loving like the little community aspect of it and kind of growing that, I was like, no, this is what I get a buzz off. This is what I wake up each day and I'm like, stay strong. Like,
yeah.
Someone's messaging the group, like all that kind of stuff. Someone's created a Spotify playlist. And I used to love that. And the big thing for me is that I was getting I still do get such a rush when like a client will message me something being like, I feel really good, or like I booked a job, or this has happened. And so it's kind of gradually become my full-time day-to-day thing. And it was, I think for me, I've always said with anything that I do, if I enjoy it, I'll do it forever.
Yeah.
And
it's the age-old saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah. And so it was kind of one of those things that it's just naturally kind of like bloomed. And I still have ideas and things that I'd love to do performing wise, but it's very much now that this is my kind of like world that I'm kind of trying to live in it. And then a performing opportunity would be a great kind of like outlet of some creativity.
On that point,
yeah,
kind of segueing away from Stage Strong for a moment.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly what you mean in that world of this is what I'm doing. I love it. It's great. I can pay my bills. I can live my life. I can do what I want to do. I can still be involved in that community. I'm paraphrasing. You can be a bit more selective maybe of what performing jobs you want to go for, you want to see, you want to do. Do you think that is an age thing?
I think, well, do you know what it is? I always had this big thing about turning 30. I don't know why. I always had it.
I think a lot of people do.
And yeah, not just a general thing.
I had this thing. I'm not meaning like that. I'm not meaning like that. But you know what I mean? It's that. It's a scary age. I think that
I'd always kind of had this thing, and in my mind, I would always been like, "Oh, 30, I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this." And when it was approaching, I was in Heathers at the time, and I was like, "This is it." I was like, "I'm quite content. Like I've had a really good 10 years. I've loved it, but what I was always scared of with performing, I never wanted to hate it. Does that make sense?
I think I know what you mean.
Like, as in, like sometimes the industry, it's a really tough industry, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes if it can lead to a stage where you start to like resent it for other reasons, whether that's like not booking a job or anything like that.
Mm.
And I always said to myself, the moment I don't enjoy it anymore, it's time to like bow out. And I was loving my time in Heathers, and I was like, I think I'm going to leave it as this. So I remember literally sending a WhatsApp to my family, sending it to my friends, and was like, my last bow is on this night. And I remember being like, that's it, please come.
So that was retirement number 4.
That was retirement number 4 for George.
For George and those others couldn't count.
And so that was it. They all came. It was amazing, and it was such a cool experience. And I went to a friend's wedding the next day, and then from that I was like, right, I'm gonna. Again, I was always doing this kind of like PTing people, but like completely on the side, like not even really telling anyone about it. And then I went into agenting for a bit. I was like, oh, I kind of miss a bit of like creativity. And don't get me wrong, the agenting world was super interesting. And I dabbled in it a few years before. I started working as an agent's assistant. I was like, oh, okay. And then a friend of mine started a startup company like producing, and I went and joined him for a bit and was producing for like a year. And then I was like, oh, again, like it doesn't, I'm missing that itch kind of thing. And again, I was slowly starting to train people more online as like my little hobby when I got home. And then I went on a job that I did before, came up and were like, oh, do you want to come back on tour again? And I was like, yeah, all right, I'm coming back. Because that was when I came up for retirement for the 5th time. And yeah. And so, and then when I was away on tour, I was like, no, like, this is where I can start to think about this online coaching. And that's when I'd started getting the foundations in place. But as I say, was always kind of step up, like, oh, is that big leap of faith? I don't know if I can do it, kind of thing.
I think it's funny. The reason I asked about age is that, so I'm not quite 30, but I'm 29 in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So I am creeping towards that, as you've just said.
You're coming close to the
30,
close to the
and
hill.
it's that thing of I'm thinking about it, and like, as a little teaser, I suppose, I do a few solo episodes of this show, and the next solo episode I'm going to do 29 thoughts at 29, because the last year has taught me personally just look back. Like a lot has. I know we're only 10 months into this year, but 2024 has been such a significant growth year for me in self-development and going, what do I want?
Yeah.
Not what others want. What does Euan want? How do I find me? Not that I didn't lose myself or anything like that. But I was very lucky and very grateful, came out of drama school, and I've kind of continued to work from there. In the last 2 years, George and I spoke about it as well, have been really fucking hard, like, to be quite honest with everyone. Started this, and like you, found this buzz, speaking to people, making a bit of a community about it. People going, oh, who's coming there? Have you thought about bringing this person on it? And I still want people to keep asking, like, bring this person, bring that person. I want the guests to get bigger and bigger and bigger and just to keep going, because I actually just love it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like you're saying there. And the reason I started saying like an age thing, it's like, I think your life starts to take shape a bit different when you're like, because you've set that boundary of 30 years old and you have these goals that you wanted to achieve, or like, what's the word? Points that you want to hit. And if you have or haven't, or have done some or have done none of them, I think you start to, like, some people can start to go in themselves and go, I'm failed. I've not done this. Where it hasn't been like that for me, it's been a case of going, well, wait a minute, actually, but I haven't done that, but I have done this. And then all these things that have started to come about. So I'm trying to teeter around it, because finding 29 thoughts, by the way, is really fucking hard. Even though I've had a lot of breakthrough points, I'm going, eat your vegetables. It's like, yeah, no, but it's things like, I'm trying to find like nice wisdom to give to people, because I work with a lot of graduates who are hungry and I'll do any job that comes, and that's amazing, and I'm going to work as an actor, and I'm going to go to this part of the world, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get paid to sing, and I only have to do it for an hour, and I get paid, and I can then live, and I get paid, and I'm like, now I'm going, yeah, but I get paid, but I'm also having to pay that person and pay that person. I've got that to pay for, but I want to achieve this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a maturity thing, an age thing, or just me having goals. So that's where I'm at in that kind of like journey.
To be honest, I completely relate to it. I think that it's really like, I think again, as performers, it's such not a unique thing, but I guess that one thing that I love about the industry is that everybody in it, or majority of people in it, are so passionate about what they enjoy, whether that's performing or anything around it. The passion that's around it, I love that, and I love the idea that people are like, that's what I want to get to. That's my dream. That's my goal.
Yeah.
And I think that from that, people within performing always can find different avenues, right? Because the truth of it is, like, I know, because I've had it as well. Like, again, I know you and George spoke about it, but when you have periods where you're not in work and you're out of work, or you're auditioning, kind of going through that grind, like, it's rough, you know.
Yeah.
Like when you've had a few like no's on the bounce, whatever, or like it's been a year or so, you're like, oh god, this feels rough. But I think that you can find, what I tried for so long was to find something else that I enjoyed as well, and be able to also enjoy my performance. Because what ended up happening was that I was almost getting better at both as I was enjoying them both, because finding that enjoyment elsewhere meant I could bring that enjoyment back to performing, because then I wasn't going to the room being like, oh my god, this is like, if this will ruin my month if I don't nail this. Whereas I was going like, oh yeah, this is sweet. Like this is gonna be really fun.
It's that mindset shift of, I need this to, I get to do this, or I want to do this, I get to do this. Like George and I briefly spoke about it in the last episode, which is the thing of like enjoying, as you've just said, enjoy being in the room, enjoy treating it as a free class.
Yeah.
Enjoy the fact that there's 4 people who have chosen you of 1,000 submissions plus to hear you sing 16 bars of a song they've heard all fucking day. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, it's a weird thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
I
completely get it. And I think that's, again, kind of segueing back to it, that's why I made Stay Strong, is because for me, like I'd speak to so many performers, and there's not many other industries in the world where you could probably face 100 no's in like complete like role, right? But it's the main thing is that I want to get to a place, and what I try and have with our little community that I'm like so proud of is try and get to a place where to make people feel like good about themselves again, to be like, oh no, like I feel really positive, like this is amazing, or you know, I want to focus on this, I want to work towards this, I want to get to this place.
Yeah.
Because like for example, Prime, like he'll love me talking about it. Shout out to Dom, who was one of the first people to come through when I officially made it Stay Strong. And when he joined, he'd just finished a cruise, been on cruises for 4.5 years back to back, right?
Wow.
And, you know, he'd banked a load of cash, like he'd done really well. And then he came home, and we kind of like briefly like were catching up. And he was just like, I feel rubbish. Like I feel rubbish. Like, I got into like a routine with the show, and I've come back, and I've gone from being like successful in that side of things in like lifestyle and stuff. And now I just feel kind of like a little bit sedentary and a little bit rubbish. And then we started working together. I was like, all right, let's start to do this. And like, he started to get this confidence back. And I saw him yesterday. We literally met up for a coffee, and he was like, mate, I'm loving audition at the moment. Like I'm really doing well with it. And he was like, cause I'm going in there being like, yeah, like I feel really good. And like, it's for me, it's not about trying to turn anyone into a bodybuilder or like oiling you up to do some sort of like crazy shoot. That's not what I'm about. It's more trying to empower kind of performers to feeling great again, because when you're at your most confident, you then feel like you can actually perform. And as I say, I had a huge moment in my performing career where my confidence was at an all-time low. And when I was going to the room, God, it was like, I literally walk in there and be like, oh God, I'd lost before I'd walked in. You know? And even when I was going out on stage each night, I knew that I was not where I wanted to be. And then when I started kind of focus on things to make me feel happier, to focus on like what Euan wants, right?
Yeah.
To kind of focus on that. And I was getting back to that. I then felt that shift of being able to go back in and be like, oh no, this is why I do it. This is why I love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of having that other thing to think about.
I think that's something that has really set, from my viewpoint of the content you produce, the phone call that we have had, all that stuff, that Stage Strong separates itself. It isn't about, correct me if I'm wrong, it isn't about, oh, you're going to be X amount of weight, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. It's literally like, it's about you. Do you know what I mean? It's about, and you're there to support that and be that. And I think that even from that, what was meant to be a 20-minute phone call,
we were on the phone for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. And it was like timing didn't work out at that time, but it was like, even that phone call just gave me me personally, that catalyst to go, yeah, right, what do you want? What's this? What's that? How can you achieve that? And reset myself. And I think that's something that what you're bringing to the industry, because whether it is involved in the performing industry or not, what you're bringing with Stage Strong, I think is so special. So you should be proud of that.
I really appreciate it.
And I mean, last week in the episode, George and I spoke about it for a good 10 minutes anyway. But it's true. It is true. And like, I think the product you've created, what you provide for clients, I mean, I can't sell it enough.
I really appreciate. And as I say, it's my big thing is that everybody's different, right?
Yeah, everybody's
different, and some people want completely different things. Some people just want to wake up and put on an outfit and be like, I feel really fucking sexy today. Yeah. I actually had a phone call with a guy yesterday, and he was like, we were chatting about like things like with him joining the program, what he was excited about, and he's like, I want to wear a vest and feel really sexy. And I was like, fair enough, mate.
I get it.
That's it.
Hey.
And like, I was like, that's, for me, everybody has their own thing.
Yeah.
And it's not on me to say to you, hey, no, this is this way. It's about adapting something to work to you, because like, if I say to you, right, you're gonna do this 6 days a week and you're gonna never have a slice of cake in your life, but I'm at home having like a tiramisu and like only going 3 times, like I can't.
Yeah.
It's got to fit to your schedule, and like that's the other thing with it, is that I want it to flex and work with a performer's lifestyle, because it is unlike no others.
It is. It's really hard to explain to people as well. And like,
I work front of house at a theatre at night, and then at the gym in the morning, and then I have to go to class and I have to use a singing lesson, and then after that I've got like,
and I've got to eat at some point between that.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
And I only eat a Pret 4 days a week. Like, do you know what I mean? It's trying to help in those situations and be like, it's not the end of the world, because so many people just go, I can't focus myself because there's too much other stuff going on.
It's overwhelming. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just completely overwhelming. Yeah. And so I think it's just being able to take that step back and be like, no, it's all right. Like, we can figure it out. Like, everything's not just up shit's creek. Because again, I know exactly what it's like when you're in that schedule and you're like, God, I feel shit. And there's nothing worse than waking up, if you are like doing a grind of jobs or whatever, or even if you're in a show schedule, when you wake up and you're like, I feel knackered. I feel like absolutely exhausted. And the day hasn't even started yet.
Yeah. Just set yourself off.
Yeah, you're then just like, oh God, like, this is shit.
And of course, we all have days like that.
Oh God, yeah.
But if you're doing it for a week on.
Yeah. And it's more to try and find a way to make you feel like you have more energy to get through a day and more energy to enjoy your performance and kind of get there. But as we kind of touched on, it's not about me being like, you're going to lose 30 kilograms the next 2 days or whatever. It's
Jesus.
Yeah. It's more like enjoyable and stuff like. So George has been with it from the start, and it's just I love getting the wins, and I love like people messaging me being like, this happened, or I feel great today, or like I feel amazing, or I just did this for the first time. Like, someone texted me yesterday being like, I just went into the scary part of the gym for the first time ever.
Good.
And like sent me a photo, and I was like, yes, like this is a win. Like this, and so it doesn't have to be about lifting a car up or doing anything like that. I mean, it's whatever.
Little wins are everything.
Yeah.
Like Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've.
Yeah, we spoke about it on the phone. Yeah.
It's. If you haven't read it, I'm going to share it, because it talks about 1% changes, and 1% can add up over so much. It's
honestly, my big thing that I've tried to kind of start drilling out is consistency builds momentum, right?
Yeah.
And I heard that a couple of weeks ago, and I was like,
consistency builds momentum.
Like, it really does. Like, when you consistently do something or consistently try to do something, the momentum in it starts to build, right? Yeah. Like, I won't lie, when I started performing, not that I'm that great at it even now, but when I started performing, I was awful, right? But consistency in me trying to touch my toes every day, like, or whatever it is, built the momentum into me being able to go, all right, now that happens. Now that, like, because no one ever did anything overnight. No one suddenly got up and just sang Defying Gravity. Do you mean like it? Yeah. There was some sort of consistent thing that built it. And so I think that if I can even help a performer find like one thing that can consistently make their day feel a bit better,
that's done. Then
it's won, right?
Yeah.
Then I can be like, amazing. And that's all I want to achieve, is to have like more interactions with people where I'm like, you just smashed that. And because a lot of people don't give themselves that acknowledgement. Yeah. You know, like when you finish something, sometimes people are like, oh, you know, yeah, it was okay. Like, I did all right. I'm like, no, that was unbelievable. Like, you just did that. So yeah, I get super nerdy and excited about it, but it's
no, but I think your passion comes across, and I think that is something else that spoke to me. I remember coming off that phone call, phone my wife and be like, I need to try and figure this out, because and I'm not just saying that because you're on the show, like, genuinely. And I mean, we've stayed in touch because it's just that thing of going, the message you're bringing is different to any other coaching service or program that I've seen for actors. And that I mean that in that funnel way. Like, there's obviously other coaches out there that are doing wonders for people who aren't in this industry, but because it's funneled in that way, it's like, you get it, you've lived it, you've breathed it, you've done the reps, is another way to say it. Yeah. You've been consistent yourself. There's proof of concept there. and let's just share it and let's all win together as a community.
Yeah, that's the goal of it. And yeah, it's just I feel ridiculously grateful to be able to call it a job. Like it just doesn't seem that way. I feel like at some point someone's going to be like, you've got to go and do something else now. But it's it's just wicked. And I've got to meet some people that I've never thought like. I taught one person that was in South Korea, like just mental. Like I was like, this is wild. Like so, it's being able to connect with people in that way is just like insane.
Yeah,
and it's just
it's still at the very beginning stages.
Yeah, it's
Let's see.
By the time this comes out, maybe
let's see where it goes. I always ask 3 questions. At the end of every episode, so we've got 9 minutes on the clock.
Amazing.
Plenty of time.
3 minutes per question.
Plenty of time. If you could talk to yourself 10, 15 years ago, what's one bit of advice you would give yourself?
Honestly, I'd say, without sounding too cheesy, just go for it. Like, stop caring what other people are thinking. Because I think that even up until, God, not even that long ago, I'm so conscious about the person on my left or the person on my right. Like, I think if I could go back and be like, just do it. If you fancy doing it, just do it. Like, there's, to quote George, when we first like met on a job, he used to always say to me, if it's not fine, it'll be funny.
Innit?
And I remember the day
that on this, it's amazing.
I had to leave the show that we were in because I'd like torn my shoulder for the first time before the 3rd retirement. And, and I remember him saying to me, I was like in a really low place and I'd just been told that like performing, I couldn't perform again and it was game over. And I remember sitting on this bench by the old physio head office and was like, oh, this is so shit. And I called George and George was like, mate, it's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. It's going to be funny. And I was like, mate, you're so true. Like,
so true.
And when I look back on it now and I think back at all those moments that I felt so like clouded, I'm like, I wish I could just be there and be like, mate, just pop it, just stop, just move on. Do you mean like it will pass?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'd say to him.
Great. If you could talk to yourself or look 10, 15 years in the future, as scary as it may be.
Scary.
What's a hope or a question you'd like to see or ask your future self?
I would love to... I'd love to say to them, or like have that kind of moment of not looking further ahead. Because I'm a big person. I've always had that 5-year plan, right? Or I'm going to do in 5 years. And I'd love to, if I could have fast forward to the future, be in a place where I'm not thinking 5 years ahead. I'm thinking 5 days ahead.
Yeah.
Because I'm always a thing of like, in 5 years' time, I'm going to do this and this is going to happen or whatever. And I'll have paid off this loan on my car or something. But I'd love it to be kind of like, no, I'm just focusing on this week. Whatever happens this week, I'm going to make the most of it. Because I think, you know, especially as you get older and different situations happen with family and friends and things, but it sounds really deep, but like, you don't know what's going to happen. You really don't. And, you know, when family or friends have passed, you're like, fuck. Like, you know, you think this far ahead, but for what reason? Like, you may as well just focus on like the 5 days ahead or the 5 weeks ahead, or, you know, and just focus on making those days as best they can be, even if some days are shit and you're working like 3 14-hour shifts. Like, just my dream would be in 10 years time or 15 years time, whatever, to stop thinking that far ahead.
Just be present.
Yeah, just to be like, oh, like, I'm going to watch Netflix and I'm going to really enjoy this Netflix session rather than thinking about the 2 days time when I've got to do something really shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not that Netflix is that important to me, but
and the final question, which arguably I'd say is probably the deepest one, is what is success to you?
Do you know, I've probably battled with that for ever since probably going to drama school. I think successes for me is having predominantly happy days. Because for years I thought success was playing leading man or getting to this show or getting that job. And don't get me wrong, like there's still things that I'd love to do, but I think success for me is going to bed and being like, yeah, decent. That was good fun.
Yeah.
And I think I will happily say that I've had a successful life if that by the end of it I'm like, I had a really good time. I always say this to people. I always think that when you're old, right? I always refer to the rocking chair, right? I don't know why I think I'll have a rocking chair. Don't know why I think I live in America out on like a yard or whatever. But I always think when you're in that rocking chair, right? You're not going to be able to look back at all these like valuable things you've got, right? And I'm not ever saying that the dream is to be as wealthy as ever. Obviously, money is a lovely thing that I want to have, but it's more I want to be able to sit in that rocking chair and be like, oh yeah, do you remember that time that happened? That was brilliant. Like, because for me, the memories are everything. And my favorite thing is to sit down with people and hear like about their happiest times, like chatting to you about like when you were talking about things that happened, or your dad, like when he found that job and he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I love that because I'm like, oh right, they're happy times. Like you're always being able to just look back and be like, over the course of that time, like I had a really funny, happy time. And I think that for so long I deemed success as a financial reward, and ultimately it's not that.
Yeah.
You know, not that I've ever had the millions to be like, this is what it is, but you know, it's the truth of it is the times when I've had a better month than another month. The only thing that's changed is that, like, you know, I buy something from Waitrose instead of like Aldi. Do you mean like it's It's and I think that it's you've got to be able to look back and just be like, oh, that was like a fun time. And I think that that's the most important thing for me is success would be to be present and be happy as much as I can be. Not like forcefully happy, not like morning, like how's it going? But like yeah. So I'd say that.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No, mate, thank you. I feel like I've just chatted at you.
That's the point. That's what we do. Yeah. If people do want to carry on the conversation or connect with you, where is the best place to find you?
Just drop me a message. You can message me on Stay Strong Instagram. It's just me. I'm just going to be there. And like the thing is for me is reach out if you just have a question. Like I'm not going to be like, hey, book in right now, all this kind of stuff. If you've got a question or you want to find out about something, just ask and I'll help. And if I don't know, I'll pass you on to someone else. Like it's, you know, it's not one of those things. I'm not going to be like a spider in the web, but it's more just, if I can help, I want to try and help.
Rory, thank you very much.
No, thank you, mate.
Thank you all for listening and watching. As a reminder, please do like, share, follow and subscribe to the show. The only way we can grow is with one rating at a time. So thank you very much, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon.